You know that conversation from 3 days ago that you're still replaying in your head? The one where you said something slightly awkward and now you can't stop analyzing every word, every pause, every facial expression. Most people think this is overthinking or anxiety, but psychology reveals something completely different. Your brain isn't broken, it's not anxiety. What you're experiencing is called metacognitive processing, and it's actually a rare cognitive gift that most people don't possess. You're about to discover why your mind does this and how it reveals 3 extraordinary traits about your intelligence. Psychology shows that when you replay conversations, your brain is performing advanced social data analysis for future optimization. You're not overthinking, you're pattern matching at an incredibly sophisticated level that most people simply cannot do. Research on metacognition reveals this as high-level cognitive monitoring. While others move through social interactions on autopilot, your mind is actively cataloging subtle cues, tone shifts, and behavioral patterns. You're essentially running social intelligence software that's constantly upgrading itself. This explains why you catch things others miss entirely. When someone's words don't match their energy, you notice. When there's tension in a room that nobody else acknowledges, you feel it. When someone says they're fine but their voice carries a different message, your brain flags it immediately. Most people miss these social cues completely because their brains don't process interactions with this level of detail. They hear words at surface value and move on. But your mind treats every conversation as valuable social intelligence, storing patterns and connections for future reference. The replay isn't anxiety, it's your brain's way of upgrading your social operating system. Think about it. When you review that awkward moment, you're not just torturing yourself. You're analyzing what went wrong, why it felt off, and how to navigate similar situations more effectively next time. Your brain has identified that this particular interaction contained important learning data. Maybe you noticed the other person's body language shifted when you mentioned a certain topic. Maybe their response felt rehearsed rather than genuine. Maybe there was a micro-expression that didn't align with their words. While others would forget these details within minutes, your mind is preserving them because it recognizes their value. You're building a comprehensive database of social patterns that makes you incredibly perceptive in future interactions. This is why you often sense things before they happen socially. You've unconsciously catalogued thousands of these micro-patterns, so when someone's behavior starts following a familiar trajectory, your brain recognizes it immediately. You'll think, something feels off here, and be proven right later. Psychology calls this superior pattern recognition, and it's a form of social intelligence that researchers are only beginning to understand. Your brain doesn't just process what people say, it's analyzing how they say it, when they say it, what they don't say, and how all of these elements connect to past behavioral patterns you've observed. The conversation replay is actually your mind's quality control system. It's ensuring that the social intelligence you've gathered is accurate and useful. When you review interactions, you're essentially debugging your social software, making sure you understood the dynamics correctly and extracting maximum learning value. Most people accept social interactions at face value and never develop this level of social awareness. They might sense that someone seems off, but can't pinpoint why. They miss the subtle power dynamics, the unspoken tensions, and the emotional undercurrents that you naturally detect. Your replaying habit is training your brain to become even more socially intelligent. Each review session strengthens your ability to read between the lines, understand hidden motivations, and predict social outcomes. You're developing what researchers call social metacognition, awareness of social awareness itself. This trait often makes you feel different from others because you're processing social reality at a much deeper level. While they're focused on the obvious, you're seeing the patterns beneath the surface. While they're satisfied with superficial exchanges, you're analyzing the complex social chess game happening in every interaction. Your brain has essentially evolved to become a sophisticated social intelligence system. The conversations you replay aren't random. They're the interactions that contained the most valuable learning data or the most complex social dynamics. Your mind is prioritizing these experiences because they offer the greatest opportunity for pattern recognition improvement. Your brain has what psychology calls a precision threshold for social interaction, and it's set remarkably high. When you replay conversations, you're not being hard on yourself. You're maintaining standards for meaningful communication that most people have never even considered. Research indicates that high-sensitivity individuals process social information with extraordinary depth. Your mind doesn't just register what happened in a conversation, it's evaluating the quality of the connection, the authenticity of the exchange, and whether the interaction aligned with your values for genuine human contact. This explains why certain conversations stick with you while others fade immediately. Your brain has developed sophisticated filtering criteria for what constitutes worthwhile social engagement. When an interaction falls below your precision threshold, your mind flags it for review because it recognizes the disconnect between your standards and what actually occurred. You replay conversations because you value authentic connection over surface-level chat. While others are satisfied with small talk and social pleasantries, your brain is constantly assessing whether the interaction contained real substance, genuine emotion, or meaningful exchange of ideas. This trait protects you from repeating inauthentic or ineffective social patterns. When you review that awkward moment, you're not just dwelling on embarrassment, you're analyzing why the interaction felt hollow or forced. Your mind is essentially asking, how can I ensure future conversations align better with my need for genuine connection? Your precision threshold operates like quality control for your social life. It prevents you from accepting mediocre interactions as sufficient and pushes you toward deeper, more meaningful exchanges. This is why superficial networking events or forced social gatherings often leave you feeling drained rather than energized. Most people accept whatever level of social connection they can get. They'll engage in meaningless chit-chat, tolerate inauthentic personalities, and settle for conversations that lack depth or substance. But your brain has evolved beyond this baseline acceptance. Your mind reviews interactions to ensure future conversations align with your values for authentic communication. When you replay that moment where someone gave you a generic response or seemed distracted during your conversation, you're not overthinking, you're maintaining your standards. This psychological trait often makes you feel isolated because you're operating with social criteria that most people don't share. While they're content with quantity of interactions, you're focused on quality. While they're satisfied with surface-level pleasantries, you're seeking genuine human connection. Psychology identifies this as having low tolerance for social inauthenticity. Your brain has developed the ability to detect when someone is performing rather than being genuine, when conversations lack substance, or when interactions serve no meaningful purpose beyond social obligation. The conversation replay serves as your mind's way of refining your approach to future interactions. You're essentially asking yourself, how can I create or find the kind of meaningful exchanges that actually satisfy my need for authentic connection? Your precision threshold also explains why you might prefer fewer, deeper friendships over large social circles. Your brain recognizes that maintaining your standards for authentic interaction requires significant emotional and cognitive investment. You'd rather have 3 genuine connections than 30 superficial ones. This trait often develops as a protective mechanism. Your mind has learned that accepting low-quality social interactions leads to disappointment, frustration, and emotional drain. So it developed this sophisticated review system to help you identify and avoid repeating patterns that don't serve your need for meaningful connection. When you replay conversations, you're essentially debugging your social approach. Your brain is identifying moments where the interaction could have been more authentic, more meaningful, or more aligned with your values. This isn't self-criticism, it's quality improvement. Most people never develop this level of social discernment because they've never questioned whether their interactions could be better. They accept whatever social reality they encounter without considering that conversations could be deeper, more genuine, or more emotionally satisfying. Your zero tolerance for social mistakes isn't a flaw, it's evidence of evolved social intelligence that demands authenticity and human connection. Psychology identifies this as emotional metacognition, awareness of your emotional processing at a level that most people never develop. When you replay conversations, you're not just reviewing what was said, you're analyzing what was felt, both by you and the other person, with remarkable precision. Your brain is calibrating for emotional accuracy in future interactions. While others process conversations primarily through words and obvious reactions, your mind is simultaneously tracking emotional undercurrents, energy shifts, and the complex feelings that flow beneath surface-level communication. This explains why you notice when someone's words don't match their emotional state. When a colleague says they're excited about a project but their voice carries exhaustion, your brain flags this discrepancy. When a friend claims they're fine but their body language radiates stress, your emotional intelligence system immediately detects the contradiction. You're developing what researchers call emotional precision through conversation analysis. Each replay session strengthens your ability to read emotional subtext, understand unspoken feelings, and predict how others might react in similar situations. Your mind treats emotional data as seriously as factual information. Most people miss emotional subtext entirely because they're focused on explicit content. They hear "I'm fine" and accept it without questioning the tremor in the voice or the tension in the shoulders. They process conversations at a surface level and miss the rich emotional information that's constantly being transmitted. Your replaying habit is actually training your empathy and social intuition to operate at an extraordinary level. When you review that moment where someone seemed uncomfortable with your question, you're not overthinking. You're developing the ability to sense emotional boundaries before crossing them. Your brain recognizes that emotional intelligence requires constant calibration. Human emotions are complex, layered, and often contradictory. By reviewing interactions, you're essentially fine-tuning your emotional radar to become more accurate and sensitive to subtle emotional cues. This trait often makes you the person others turn to when they need someone who truly understands what they're going through. Your advanced emotional calibration allows you to perceive feelings that others miss, offer support that actually addresses underlying emotional needs, and create space for authentic emotional expression. Psychology shows that this level of emotional processing requires significant cognitive resources. Your brain is simultaneously managing your own emotional responses while analyzing the emotional states of others, tracking how emotions shift throughout conversations, and predicting emotional outcomes based on subtle cues. The conversation replay serves as your mind's way of upgrading its emotional intelligence software. You're essentially asking, did I read their emotional state correctly? What were they really feeling beneath what they said? How can I respond more effectively to similar emotional situations in the future? Your emotional metacognition also explains why superficial interactions feel particularly draining. Your brain is constantly processing emotional information that others ignore completely. You're aware of tensions they don't notice, feelings they don't acknowledge, and emotional needs they don't recognize. This advanced emotional calibration is why you often sense relationship problems before they become obvious. Detect when someone is struggling, even when they're hiding it well. And understand the emotional dynamics in group situations that others completely miss. You're not broken or overthinking. You have rare metacognitive processing abilities that most people lack completely. Your brain operates at a level of social and emotional intelligence that psychology is only beginning to understand. Subscribe for more psychology videos that explain your personality traits. Drop a comment if you replay conversations and now recognize this as a cognitive strength.